Right, so welcome everybody. Before we do get started, just a couple of things, housekeeping to go over. So today's webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour, including a 15-minute Q&A at the end. We do have captioning available, so you can click the CC button down below for closed captions if you require it. We do have BSL interpretation today with Paul and Naomi joining us. The recording of this webinar will be available on our website in 7 days, so keep an eye out for that. Ask any questions using the Q&A buttons down below as well, and I will stress to please use those buttons if you have any questions. If you put it in the chat, it might get missed. We do have Jack with us monitoring the chat today, who I'll introduce in a second, but Q&A is best place for him. And as I've said already, say hello in the chat. Make sure you're on everyone so everyone can hear you, and you can use the react buttons, which hopefully you'll be using throughout, mainly the laughing one. There you go, that's one. Right, so thanks everybody for coming along today's webinar, which is called How to Choose the Right CRM. To just introduce myself, my name is Adam Sykes, and I'm Tech Champion for Ticketing and CRM at the Digital Culture Network. I'm a white man in my early 30s. I've got ginger hair and glasses, and I'm wearing a black button-up shirt with a red check. And my buddy today is Jack. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Morning, everyone. My name's Jack. I am the tech champion for audience data collection and evaluation. I'm based in Manchester, and I am a white man with brown hair and glasses, and I'm wearing a beige t-shirt today.
Thank you, Jack. Jack will be, like I said, monitoring the chat. And we'll be hosting the Q&A at the end as well. So we'll see him at the end. So today's session is about helping you feel confident and equipped to make informed decisions about CRMs. Whether you're replacing an old one or starting fresh, by the end, hopefully you can understand what questions to ask, how to prepare your team and your data, and how to choose a partner that fits your organization's size and capacity. So we'll be breaking this up into 6 sections, as you can see on the screen. Number one, why a new CRM? Number two, preparing internally. Number three, getting your data ready. Number four, what to look for in a CRM. Number five, shortlisting and evaluation. And number six, the next steps to hopefully go away with and do some of it yourself. So just for everyone who's not familiar with us, the Digital Culture Network is a free support and skills development service available to everyone in the creative and cultural sector in England. We're part of Arts Council England, and our job is to help grow and support the digital skills in our sector. And we do that by providing one-on-one support, which is completely free and unlimited. So all you need to do is to go onto our Digital Culture Network website, click Get in Touch, and you can tell us what you'd like to talk about. And we'll get back to you with a link where you can pick a time and date to chat to one of our tech champions, me or one of the 14, 15 of us to help you out. And Jack should be sharing a link for that in the chat as well. So first section, as I said, why a new CRM? Let's start with the basics. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Think of it as your central hub for all your audience information. It's the place where you can see at a glance who your audiences are, what they've attended, whether they've donated, and how you've communicated with them. A good CRM does more than store the data, though. It can track your interactions, and you can answer questions like, who are our repeat visitors? Which events attract new audiences? Who has donated and who hasn't been contacted in a while? And for organizations that have never had a CRM, the benefits are quite immediate. So instead of juggling multiple spreadsheets or mailing lists, everything's living in one shared space. You can save time, reduce mistakes, and make smarter decisions. So think in relationships and not transactions. A CRM can help you recognize those patterns over time, not just one by one ticket sales. So just to keep this practical, I'm going to introduce an example organization that we'll be referring to throughout the webinar. It's Adam's Really Terrific Stuff Centre or the Arts Centre. It's a small creative organization, and we're running events, workshops, and community projects. We have 5 staff and limited resources. And until now, we've relied on spreadsheets and our email platform. And as we go through each section, we'll see how each step applies to our situation and hopefully as well as yours. And our goal for this with our organization today is to spend less time wrestling with data and more time engaging our audiences. So before we dive in, I just want to get a sense of where everyone is coming from. So I'm just going to launch a quick poll for you. And if everyone can see that now, just take a minute to answer that poll, which best describes where you are on your CRM journey now. We don't have a CRM yet and are exploring options. We have one, but it's not working well. We're planning to upgrade. We're happy with our CRM, but want to improve how we use it. Or I don't know why I need a CRM. Thankfully, not many people choosing the don't know why. I'll just give a minute for everyone to answer there. So just end that now. It looks like most of them have come in. And I'll just share your results with you. So it seems most of you don't have a CRM yet and are exploring options, or have one, but it's not working well, and then planning to upgrade. Great. Sounds like you're in the right place. If you're happy with your CRM and want to improve how you use it, hopefully you get some tips around data cleanliness and things like that. And if you don't know why you'd need a CRM, hopefully this will, give you some idea of why it's helpful to be on there. And you can also just come and speak to me at any point after this webinar as well. I'm happy to give any advice needed. So, why do organizations explore CRMs? Often it's because current systems are frustrating. So, hit me with a thumbs up in the reaction if you've heard any of these before. So, messy or manual processes. Staff are spending hours copying information between spreadsheets, and you have to log into 4 different systems to get what you need. Yeah, look at them going. No clear view of audiences. You can't easily see who's attending events, donating, or engaging online. Even more there, it looks like. Limited insights. You want reports or trends, but your data isn't structured to provide them. Team silos. Marketing, programming, and fundraising teams maybe are working in isolation and often duplicating effort. And then a big one, leadership wants better reporting. Trustees, funders, or leadership want clear metrics, but pulling the data is time consuming or not possible without current knowledge. So yeah, it sounds like you're all familiar with a few of those. Hopefully, we can get some of those sorted today. So let's take a look at Art Center. They've been working with 5 different spreadsheets, and again, this may seem familiar to some of you. We have customer list 2, customer list final, customer list final, final version 2, and then the good old RSVP list from 2003. Very important. No one person has a full picture of who their audience is. Marketing's got a separate list, programming's got a separate list, and fundraising's got its own donor records. And because there's no central view, cross-programming insights are impossible. So, for example, we can't easily see which workshop attendees are also coming to our events or which donors also volunteer for us. Duplications leads to extra work and potential mistakes. So this is very common. Small arts organizations often find themselves in the same situation. The frustration builds, and that's usually when a CRM can become a priority. So now we've looked at why organizations might start exploring a CRM, we can shift to the how. So the next section is all about preparation, what you can do internally before you even start researching systems. Think of it as building foundations for a house. If your team's clear on what you want to achieve, how you work now, and who's involved, then when you finally look at your CRM options, everything will make a lot more sense, and you'll save time and money down the line as well. So I'll walk you through 3 key steps: defining your goals, mapping your current processes, and building buy-in across your team, which is a big important one. So before you even begin to search for a CRM, you want to start with this question: what are your goals? It might sound simple, but many projects fail because they start with your features instead of your outcomes. Think about your goals in practical terms. So, do you want to save staff time by reducing manual data entry? Do you want to improve your audience communication? Do you want to better track your donors and supporters? Or maybe you just want one reliable database instead of multiple spreadsheets. The CRM isn't just a piece of software, it's a tool that supports the way that your organization builds relationships. It should be a mindset shift from data storage to audience understanding. And to make this concrete, I recommend writing down a couple of questions that you'd love for your CRM to answer. For example, some questions such as, who are our most loyal attendees? How do workshop participants find us? And which donors also volunteer? And questions like these can become your anchor points for when you evaluate systems later on. So it should all be feeding back into these questions you've made at the beginning. Once you know your goals, the next step is to then map out how things currently work. So this means documenting your audience touch points and every place that your organization is interacting with audiences or collecting data. And that can include your ticketing or booking platforms, workshop registrations, donation forms, mailing lists, volunteer signups, and surveys or feedback forms. Then list out where that data currently lives, so Excel files, email platforms, etc. And then you can start looking for gaps and duplications. So are there systems that collect the same information? And are there areas where you don't have any data at all? This exercise can often reveal hidden issues like inconsistent naming, missing consent fields, or double entry between tools. The goal here isn't to fix everything right away, it's to get a realistic picture of what your CRM will eventually need to integrate with or replace. So you might be collecting the same information across your ticketing as you are across your donation platform. Is there a way we can save money and reduce that by having it under one system, hopefully? So the third step, and probably one of the most important, is building that internal buy-in. So it's really common for CRM projects to start with one enthusiastic person, but then struggle because others see it as extra work or someone else's system. So involve everyone whose users or depends on audience data as early on as possible. That includes marketing, programming, fundraising, and admin staff. Um, Ask them things like what they find hardest about how they currently are tracking audiences and how they can make their lives easier. I don't know about you guys, but we're all just trying to make our lives a bit easier. And if you can pitch that as an opportunity to improve someone's job and make it less stressful for them, I think it can really build that buy-in early on where people will want a new system because you've been told it's going to make my job easier, which is all we need in life. And then you can use those conversations to agree on what success looks like. And maybe that means faster reporting, fewer spreadsheets, or better audience insight. Maybe it just means we make more money and we get more people to our events. It doesn't matter what that actual success is, as long as you have defined it and everyone's on the same page around it. And then finally, decide who will own that CRM internally. So for small teams, it might just be one person who becomes that internal champion, who's the go-to person to make sure that data is staying consistent and that people are actually using the system. But you do need someone there to kind of champion and push it. It's great to ask everyone at the start, but they still need someone to make the decisions and, set up the processes. The more people that feel involved in shaping it, the more likely they'll be to adopt a new system. So here's how our example organization put all of that into practice. So we started by interviewing three staff members, one from marketing, one from programming, and one from admin. And we asked each person what frustrated them most about audience management. And so from that chat, we created a simple criteria list for our CRM, things like reducing double data entry, tracking who attends multiple programming programs, making audience reporting easier, improving our email list accuracy, and freeing up staff time for more creative work. And then when we looked at that list, the number one theme that was coming across was saving time on communications, and that clarity can completely change how you approach your CRM procurement and your demos. So you're focusing on email systems with strong communication tools and more in the relationship side of things rather than complex features that you may not need or use. So doing that internal prep can help you avoid being overwhelmed later. So instead of being dazzled by features, you know exactly what's mattering most to your team and your organization specifically. So just to recap for preparing internally, key points to take away with is define your CRM goals before looking at systems, focus on your outcomes, not your features. Map your current workflows to reveal gaps and opportunities. Engage your team early. Shared ownership is what makes a CRM succeed. And a short internal prep phase can save months of confusion later. So now that your team has clear goals and that everyone's on board, the next step is to start looking at your data. This section is all about the preparation, because no matter what CRM that you choose, the quality of what you put in will shape what you get out of it. Here's the good news as well. If even if you're not ready to buy a CRM yet, you can start this work right now. So cleaning and organizing your data in advance is not only good practice, it'll save you time, money, and headaches later. So how and why data prep matters. Big one is it'll save you money. A lot of CRM systems charge by the number of contacts, so it's just good business sense to ensure that it's up to date and as tidy as possible. Data preparation doesn't require a CRM. You can start right now with what you already have, and it'll make your life easier down the line. Begin with your spreadsheets. Are they consistent? Are names formatted the same way across spreadsheets? Do emails sit in a single column? Things like that. Are you capturing consent data clearly for communications? If you'd like to know more about consent and capturing data as well, there's a really good article written by Jacqueline, who's our tech champion for email marketing, which Jack is hopefully sharing in the chat now, which is the 5 essentials for collecting contact data. Really recommend it. It's a good read to get you started. Um, Another key step for that as well is to track and label where each of your data steps coming from. Ticketing, email, survey forms, or donation platforms. This will help you understand what you're working with and will help you prevent confusion later as well. So these small fixes can make a huge difference when it's time to import your data into a CRM. You'll save yourself the pain of cleaning during setup, which you might not have the time to do when it gets closer to that launch date. It can be costly and time consuming. Maybe the supplier that you're working with will do it for you, but they'll charge you money. So doing it in advance can help you create that strong, internally consistent process. And it will also help you train new staff as well, if everyone's kind of on the same page about it. So if everyone's doing the same thing across the organization, it keeps everything uniform. So even if your CRM project is 6 months away, these steps can hopefully help you build confidence and clarity in your data. And to do that, you can do a simple data audit. It's not just a technical exercise, it's about taking stock of what data you have currently and what you're doing with it. Um, Make a quick list or a table of every place that your audience data is currently living, and for each one, note what type of data it holds, bookings, donors, newsletter signups, etc., how many records it contains, and how clean or reliable that data is. And you'll often find that some data sets are in really good shape. For example, your email list might be the most up to date, while others are messy or outdated, which is fine. The goal is just to be aware of what you have currently. Then you can decide what you'd want to import first when you do move to a CRM. Again, usually it's your most cleanest, most active list. Doesn't have to be your entire archive of information. This step can help you plan realistically for your migration later. So for example, the bookings information, while it might be really relevant, it might not be the cleanest. It might go back 10 years. People may have paid on the door. You might not have full information about people, so it might not necessarily be a priority straight away. However, your newsletter, you send in that every month. It's up to date. The information's there. The data's there. It's very relevant. It's a large number of people at 2,000. It's clean and it's probably a priority. It's our biggest, data set. So we want to get that in as soon as possible so we can keep that communication going with our audiences. With the donors, yes, it's very relevant. These are people who are giving us money. It's not a big number, but it's a number of people who are actively trying to support us as an organization. So we want to potentially prioritize that, even if it might not be a completely clean data set. So it's probably one to flag to get it as clean as possible in the first place. It might be, people give a fiver in every now and then. But if we can get that to a good enough place, we can again move that over to the system and hopefully start getting more money in from the donation system. Um, and that good old RSVP form from 2003, there's 24 people on that. It's not relevant. I don't think it's clean. It's just a bunch of names on a list half the time. No emails in there. It's not a priority. Honestly, don't even bring it through. Get rid of it. 24 for people, it's not worth the hassle it'd take to get that sorted and get it imported in, and it's not worth the cost of your time or money. And focus on the quality over the quantity. It's better to import 2,000 clean records than 10,000 inconsistent ones. So let's just go back to the Arts Centre. When we reviewed that data, we had those four different lists and that good old RSVP list from 2003. Unsurprisingly, there was a lot of overlap in there. So around 30% of the contacts had no recorded consent for marketing communication. Made it hard to know who we could legally contact under GDPR. So we decided to make a new consolidated master contact list, merged everything together, removed duplicates, and clearly marked who had consented. If there's data over 10 years old, maybe we got rid of that. If people have not engaged with us in X number of years, that'll be very specific to you as an organization of what you consider an engaged audience member. But it's good to have those kind of cut-off points so you're not just keeping hold of data for years and years and years with no purpose. So by doing this before we adopted a CRM, we've avoided paying a supplier to clean it for us. We've been able to pace it out a bit easier in between our regular work. And when the time comes to migrate, we've got one clean, well-structured file that's just ready to go straight over. It can take a few afternoons, but it can give you the confidence and clarity and make your CRM setup much, much smoother. So just to recap that data section, like I said, even before you have a CRM, you can start improving your data now. A light audit can give you visibility and control. And don't aim for perfection, aim for readiness. We don't need everything in by X number of days. We just want all of our high quality and engaged audience members in there. It's not wasted effort, it's quite foundational. And it means that when you do adopt a CRM, you'll be 2 steps ahead. So this point, you've done all the groundwork, you've defined what you want to achieve, you've mapped how you currently work, and you've cleaned up your data, hopefully. Now we're ready to talk about suppliers. So this section is about shifting your mindset from buying software to building a partnership. A CRM is not a one-time purchase, it's an ongoing relationship with the company that supports you. It'll train you and it'll keep your system running smoothly. So I can walk you through how you'll evaluate your fit, what kinds of questions to ask, and how to avoid some of the most common pitfalls when comparing systems. So when choosing a CRM, it's tempting to focus on the features, dashboards, automation, reporting tools. But the truth is, most systems can do a lot of similar things. The real difference is in that relationship and that partnership with your supplier. So you need to ask yourself, is the supplier the right size and fit for us as an organization? Some companies focus on large, complex clients with dedicated data teams, and others specialize in small arts or charity organizations and offer more hands-on support. For smaller teams, responsive and accessible help is often more valuable than fancy functionality. You want to know when something goes wrong that you can reach a real person who actually understands your context. Integration is another key point at this point. Can the CRM connect with our existing tools, like your email or your ticketing platform? If not, you may end up creating new silos instead of solving the ones that you already have. And then finally, look for transparent pricing. Avoid vague or modular pricing models that can make costs unpredictable. A good partner will hopefully explain what's included up front, training, data migration, and ongoing support. You don't want to pay a lot of money to start with, and then in 6 months' time, you slap with another bill that you weren't aware of because you asked for help once and they sent an email and they charged you £500 for that email. So when you do meet with potential suppliers, the questions that you ask them can make a big difference. So here are some that I would include in every conversation. How easy is it to use? Don't just take their word for it. Ask to see actual tasks done live, like adding contacts, sending emails, or running reports. What training and onboarding is included? Will your team actually receive live training sessions? Will you get written guides, video tutorials? Is further refresher training available later if staff changes? Do you want to be able to, a new starter begins and you can just pass them over to the supplier to deliver the proper training to them, or do you need to build your own processes and training guidelines within? Can it grow with us? So how does the CRM scale? Will I be able to add more users or new modules easily, or will I outgrow it in 2 years? It is a big process to get a CRM, and it should be well thought out. So you don't want to have to do this every 6 months or so, paying loads of money each time, not enjoying the system, not being able to use it properly, and then having to go through this process all over again. And then finally, the big one, how do you support my type of organization? This question will reveal whether the supplier actually understands your reality we work in the creative and cultural sector. We've got limited capacity, part-time staff, money. We all know what it's like. You want someone who kind of understands that and can work with that type of organization. There are some large CRMs out there that maybe lean towards a lot more corporate organizations and just don't understand the way a creative and cultural organization will work. These questions can help move that conversation from just a standard sales pitch towards like building that partnership. You want someone who's enthusiastic about you as an organization, who wants to do the work with you and who wants to, support your organization. So once you understand that kind of partnership that you want and the questions to ask, the next step is a bit of homework, doing your research and getting your criteria clear. So this is where a CRM brief can come in. It's a simple structured document that will help you move beyond your broad goals towards your specific requirements. In that brief, you'll outline your organization's objectives for a CRM, what success looks like, as we discussed in section 2, and your overall organizational goals. So your CRM project should be feeding into your CRM project goals, but your CRM project goals should be feeding into your overall organizational goals. And if you do need support with figuring out your overall digital strategy, I'd strongly recommend speaking to my colleague Ollie, who's digital marketing and strategy tech champion. And it can help you immensely in the long run for all of your digital projects to be aligned with your overall strategy. So give Ollie a call, and Jack should have shared his booking information in the chat as well. You'll then also outline your must-haves, the things a CRM must deliver to be viable, as well as nice-to-haves, so features that would make life easier but aren't necessarily deal breakers to you. Your capacity as well, it's good to put on there. Who's going to manage it, what support you'll need, and your approximate budget range that you're working with. And again, some of these might be essential. We are working to this budget specifically, or it might be a bit more flexible of we've got between this much to spend and we're willing to spend a bit more if it gets us a system that will do the things that we want it to do. This brief will keep your supplier conversations focused, gives you a fair comparison across systems, and again, saves time later in your procurement. Once it's filled out, it will allow you to quickly and easily share your needs to potential suppliers and essentially create a checklist of wants and needs, allowing you to make data-driven decisions when it comes to your selection. So after today's session, along with the recording and everything else, you'll get a CRM brief template that I share with people, so you can outline your own criteria and functionality requirements. So don't worry about having to create your own, and it will hopefully empower you to start having those conversations with suppliers sooner rather than later. And that's a good time to also remind you that this webinar is being recorded and you'll have access to the full recording afterwards as well. So because our example organization had already done the work from earlier sections, defining our goals, mapping out how they currently work, and getting the buy-in from the team, creating our CRM criteria was much easier. We knew what we wanted because we could revisit the pain points that had been brought up by the staff, which, if you remember, it was the communication issues we were having. So we used the CRM brief to capture all of that information and turn it into a clear selection criteria. Our three must-haves were a simple timeline view. We wanted something intuitive that everyone could use confidently without lots of training. We wanted it to integrate with our current existing tools, mainly our email platform for comms and ticketing systems. And we wanted reporting that connects our donations and with our audience activities. So we could track what kind of programming has the best impact on our donations. We also included our budgets and our 24/7 support, which weren't necessarily essential, but were desirable to us and hopefully within that system. If, there was differences between it, it might make a difference on the final choice if one offers a cheaper price, perhaps. But if we're looking at those three essentials first as the main criteria. Um, our system ideally needed to fit these five things, and with that clarity, we could quickly narrow down any suppliers that met our needs, and write off any that maybe didn't straight away. So it avoids having to have conversation and conversation and conversation with these suppliers to try and figure it out. If you come in with a strong criteria, you can do a lot of that work yourself very quickly and easy. And it'll avoid you getting distracted by systems that maybe were too complex or outside of our budget. So our brief became that reference point for every supplier conversation. It helped us focus how each CRM aligned with our goals rather than getting lost in features. Um, we can then easily send out this brief to potential suppliers and they can run through this list and quickly lay out the capabilities, saving us both time. So essentially, we'll create a checklist for the supplier to fill out. So in this instance, we've got the timeline view, we've got the integration, we've got the donation tracking. It was within our budget. Unfortunately, they only had 2377 support available, so it is a bit of a red mark against them, but it might not be a deal breaker. So when it comes to choosing your CRM partner, remember, you're building a relationship, not just buying software. Match the supplier's scale and support style to your team's capacity. Ask human questions about the usability, training, and support. And don't underestimate the value of a responsive partner. It's what keeps your CRM sustainable long term. Do you want to work with if they both do 10 out of the 10 things that you're looking for, is the one that's responding straight away in a friendly and supportive manner, or the one that it takes 3 weeks to get an email back and it's not very helpful? Which one do you actually want to build that relationship with and, have that ongoing communication with? So by this stage, you've done all that heavy lifting. You know what you need. You've prepped your data and you've had some early conversation with suppliers. So now it's time to narrow things down and make a confident evidence-based choice. So this section is about the process. It's not the most glamorous part, but it's probably one of the most important. A clear, structured evaluation will help you compare your systems fairly, will involve your colleagues in the decision, and will help you justify that final choice to leadership, trustees, funders, whoever. So we'll cover a simple method for shortlisting and scoring, and then walk through how our example organization applied it in practice. So let's break that process down. One, make a shortlist. Aim for a couple of systems, three or four might be good, that genuinely fit your needs and budget. Like I said, if you've done all of the prep before, it will help this decision part easier. So you know the ones that you're bringing through to your shortlist will be able to do all of the things that you need it to do. From then on, it's just that conversation and kind of fit to the organization. Um, if you have any more than that, it can become a bit confusing. However, I will say if there are, six systems that all fit your criteria, it's always better to kind of just bring them all forward than arbitrarily setting a number. If you set we're going to bring two forward, and then one of them just won't work out for they don't have the time to launch you on a certain date, it just automatically leaves you with one option and it might not be the best solution. So you want to be able to have as much choice as possible, leaving you with no actual decision and you're forced to go with that only option. Create a simple scoring sheet. So this can be basic as an Excel table. You don't need to be too fancy with it. You want to just list your key priorities, for example, your ease of use, reporting, support integrations, cost, and data migration. And then you can score each of those out of 10 for each area. And then compare your demos objectively. So when suppliers demo their products, again, ask them to show you those real world tasks based on your actual use cases that you've developed in your previous steps. For instance, again, show us how we'd record an attendance at a workshop, or how would we tag someone who is both a donor and volunteer. Don't let them run you through a same sales pitch that they do for everybody. Again, they're the ones that are selling to you. They need to prove to you why you should give them your money, rather than you look at going around saying we need a CRM, we need a CRM. They should be selling you on theirs, why theirs fits you best. Keep notes after each demo while it's fresh in your mind as well. So don't rely on just your memory. Write it down throughout, what felt intuitive and what didn't, and then again you can compare it objectively at the end. And also talk to current users. So you can ask your suppliers for your references, ideally from similar sized arts or cultural organizations, museums, theaters, galleries, things like that. Ask them, what do you like the most about it? What's been tricky? And how good is the support when things actually go wrong? So you'll get more from maybe a 20-minute conversation of someone who's actually using it on a day-to-day basis than you will from a salesperson who's, let's be real, only going to tell you all of the best parts of the system. Um, on that note as well, you can also come and ask me. I speak to a lot of organizations on a day-to-day basis and learn a lot about what people are using, and I'm happy to kind of get people in touch from that side because, again, the person selling the system to you might send you to the best example of a reference that they have of someone who's using the system really well and getting all as much out of it as possible. Whereas there might be bits and pieces that might fit your organization better that you hear about from someone who's maybe struggling a bit with it. So, how did Arts Centre put this into action? So, we started with six potential systems, and then over the shortlisting period, we narrowed it down to three that genuinely fit our budget and feature needs. Each system got a 30-minute demo focused on the organization's actual workflows, so no generic sales slides. And we used a simple scoring sheet with four weighted categories. Usability at 40%. How easy is it for non-technical staff to use on a day-to-day basis? Reporting at 25%. Can it give them the insight they need for funders and leadership? Support 20%. Is there responsive human help available? And then cost 15%. Is it sustainable for a small team with limited funds? So as you can see, we really focusing on that usability side of things. We want something that's easy to use. We don't want to have to spend time and resources and their time and resources finding out how to use the system. So we weighted it accordingly as the most important criteria for us for our scoring. After each demo, the team member filled in their scores and added short comments. Um, and something when we compared those notes, something interesting emerged. The system with the most features scored lowest for the usability. So if you can see there with system 3, it's got 10 out of 10 on reporting and support, It's got the highest score overall, but it's quite low in the usability scale. So just going by the one that scores the highest might not be the best solution for you as well. So system two, however, it's a bit more even across the board, but it scores higher in the usability side of things, and that's what we've made as most important. It's not the cheapest necessarily, but it would be the one that fits best with us. So again, you're taking your time, you're evaluating it all thoroughly so that you can come to these decisions and you can justify those decisions as well. So the final choice wasn't the cheapest or the flashiest, but it was the one that the entire team felt confident that they could use without a daily frustration. Adoption beats sophistication. The best CRM is the one that your staff will actually be using. So to sum up at this stage, keep your shortlist realistic. Use a scoring process so decisions are transparent and evidence-based. Focus demos on real workflows, not generic features. And involve your team. Adoption is everyone's responsibility. Don't let it become one person's project and be the go-to of, well, I'm not learning how to do it because so and so is in charge of that, so I'll just ask them every time. By following this structured approach, you'll not only make a better decision, but also make your implementation smoother because everyone will already feel invested. So we've covered quite a lot today, from understanding why organizations explore CRMs to preparing your team, cleaning your data, and evaluating suppliers. So in this final section, I just want to help you leave with a clear sense of what to do next. So whether you're still in the thinking about it phase or ready to make a decision, there are practical steps that you can take immediately to start building that momentum. So the main ideas that I hope that you take away with you today is first, you don't need to be fully CRM ready to start preparing. Many organizations wait too long thinking that they need perfect data or clear budgets before taking any action, where in reality, the prep work that you do now, even if it's just mapping your data or listing your frustrations, will pay off later. Second, start small. Focus on the one or two outcomes that matter most for your organization. Maybe it's reducing duplication, improving audience insights, or tracking donor engagement. You don't need to fix everything all at once. And third, clean data plus clear goals equals a smoother setup. A CRM project fails less often because of the technology and more often because the data or the purpose wasn't clear from the start. So here's a practical roadmap for what you to do next. So step one, review what systems you currently use, list every platform that touches your audience data, ticketing, newsletter, surveys, spreadsheets, anything. This creates a snapshot of your digital ecosystem. Step two, define what your goals are and your frustrations. Write them down, write down what's working, what's not, and what you wish you could do differently. And then this will later become the foundation for your CRM requirements. Do a light data tidy up. Pick one of your data sets, so maybe a mailing list, and make sure that all the fields are standardized, names, emails, and consent. Even if you don't move from a CRM soon, this will make your communications cleaner right away. It's always just useful to keep your data tidy. And then finally, contact the Digital Culture Network for one-to-one support. We can help you review your goals, think through options, or even look at specific tools that might fit your capacity. It's free, impartial advice designed to help you make your informed choices. Thank you for the heart. So to get in touch and book that one-to-one support that I just mentioned, you can head to our website, digitalculturenetwork.org.uk, where you can also browse our knowledge hub with hundreds of articles and past webinars. You can follow us on LinkedIn and X, and you should definitely check out the Digital Culture Network podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our website as well. If you're going to listen to one episode, go listen to mine first, and if that's interesting enough, you can then check everyone else's out. But do listen to it anyway, it's good. And then finally, before we move to the Q&A, Christmas wouldn't be complete without a really good present. So I wanted to mention our upcoming webinar by Jacqueline on the 21st of January next year. sustainable email marketing, how to be green and grow. So to give yourself something to look forward to, get over those January blues, book now to lock it in. And hopefully Jack shared that link in the chat as well. Now it's time for the Q&A.
Well done, Adam. That was really
Thank you,
good,
Jack.
really useful. And we've had loads of great questions come in from the Q&A. I think one that a couple of people have asked in different ways is, can you give a list of starting point of a few CRM systems that people could look at for small organizations?
Yeah. So I specifically didn't mention any specific CRMs in this webinar because I wanted to try and build that foundational side of things and wanted people to be able to understand the kind of methodology and processes behind it all. There are a million CRMs out there, at risk of, you know, choosing one over the other, things like that. It might not fit you as an organization, so I wouldn't particularly just list off a few names right now. There are uh, hundreds of them, all from very, very free, accessible, easy to use, up to very expensive, very feature heavy. I would suggest come speak to me and I can give you a good list of recommendations based on your organization specifically. It's just I don't want to say it to a giant group of people because it won't be relevant for half of the people that ask it. So yeah, there are loads out there. I know a lot of them. Um, Come and ask me about them.
Yeah, I think they'd have to get in touch with you at some point anyway, because their requirements will be so specific to their
Yeah,
organization.
it's hard to just say like this is the best CRM, you know. There are the do so many different functionalities. Some are more focused towards fundraising and donations. Some have more ticketing functionality, things like that.
Yeah, of course. And we've got a question from Catherine McAlpine, who I think is Brunel Museum, isn't she?
Hmm.
Which is a wonderful place in London.
Yep.
So she asks, she's conscious that this might be like asking how long is a piece of string, but how much do you think a CRM might cost in terms
Yep.
of setup fees and maybe monthly subscriptions? So the example she gives is an organization that's about 2,000 contacts, but might
Hmm.
hope to grow to about 5,000.
So yes, is similarly a bit of a vague one of, like I said, there are completely free options out there, but they might not give you the functionality that you need. I'd say with around 2,000 to 5,000 contacts, the specific systems that I tend to talk about in the creative and cultural space are that is on the lower end of the cost. So, I've seen from around 20 to 40 pounds a month for something like that. Different ones do have different setup fees and things as well, which is why I mentioned about, make sure that you're clear on what the pricing is. They can kind of jump them on you at the end and say, oh, you owe us 2 grand to actually start work, even though you're only paying 20 quid a month afterwards. It's to be fully clear on what you're getting into. But yeah, that is tends to be on the lower end. Some do it around the number of users as well, so it might not be necessarily the contacts themselves but the actual staff members that will be using the systems. So bit of a towards the cheaper end, but also can vary massively.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point about not falling into the trap further down the line. So there's a question from Fiona that kind of echoes what you just said,
Mhm.
which was they got started with a system. It was a considerable cost in terms of money and staff training, but then the price strategies have continually
Yeah.
changed. So that's kind of then now they're stuck with the system that's now kind of out of their budget.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's something that I'd probably just reinforce and add that I didn't necessarily say is to when I talked about how it will grow with you as well, it can include your price, like part of your contract can be we don't want it to change more than, go up more than 5% each year if you're going to change things like that, is really shore up all of that stuff in those conversations so that you're not, oh, we've been working on this price increase for the last 3 years, but we just didn't tell you because we wanted you to sign the contract first.
and
So
and
yeah,
it,
just be clear about that.
and is that kind of easier with a smaller provider, I guess, because like the big dogs will be like you'll be talking
Yeah,
to a customer service person who like won't be able to authorize that or promise
absolutely.
that.
And
Yeah.
the ones that I tend to discuss and talk about are a lot more arts, culture, creative sector focused. Because of that, is that they understand, like I said, the space that we all work in is that we don't all have massive budgets. It's easy for someone to say to Microsoft, pay us loads of money because they've got loads of money. Whereas the smaller CRMs that are out there, not even necessarily smaller CRMs, just the more appropriate to your type of organization that are out there, tend to be better. The ones that are better to have that conversation with and have a bit of a negotiation as well. That is also something I will say is that they list their prices online, but there is some room for negotiation a lot of the time. You might not be using all of the features, you might have lower staff numbers compared to what they say on the website. There is a bit of room for price negotiation in there as well. And if you're a registered charity, there's a lot of discounts on that as well.
Yeah, and I think we sometimes we feel a bit uncomfortable kind of trying to haggle, but
Mhm.
like there is room for it, isn't there? And
Yeah,
especially if maybe if they don't have so many clients or not so many in your
yeah.
specific art form or space.
I'll say something maybe perhaps controversial is that the CRM systems are not struggling as much as arts organizations are. So take whatever you can get.
Yeah, you don't owe them anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
What, so this is a good question. And again, it might vary. Jess asked, what is the expected lifetime of a CRM?
Yeah. So it can vary again, excluding factors of, like the actual company itself stopping existing and things like that, is I think you should kind of see yourself with a system for around 5 years, I'd say. It doesn't have to, it can be further than that. Ideally, you get a system and it just works for you and you stay with it forever. But you should go in with the mindset of going, how am I going to be using this in 2, 3 years, 4, 5 years time? Um, because it is an investment, and you, again, like I say, you don't want to have to be going through this process every 6 months. It can be one of those things where I always advise people to take as much time as they need first, because a lot of the work you do beforehand can really make that difference. And it 5 years roughly should be kind of what you're thinking for your organization as well. And again, that's when I'd encourage you to talk to Ollie about your strategy as a whole and where do you see yourself as an organization? What are your goals? Yes, we want to fix the database is a bit iffy now and we can't email people properly. But then if we get that sorted, what do we want to do then? Rather than just going, let's fix the band-aid problems now and then we'll figure it out later. You should be thinking about that.
Yeah, and maybe beyond 5 years, it's a little hard to predict like where
Yeah,
technology will be and
yeah.
yeah.
Where the arts will be.
Yeah, your own program evolving, yeah.
Yeah,
So Lizzie P, she says possibly a stupid question, but
no
there's
stupid
no
question.
no such thing, Lizzie.
No.
Um, does a CRM differ from an email and newsletter program, or can CRMs do that as well, or would you get separate email platforms and link them together?
So it tends to be, there are some CRMs that have basic email functionality built in. In terms of like your newsletter and things like that, you can be collecting that data via your CRM, but for the most part, they tend to sit a bit separately. So, for example, MailChimp is a very widely used email platform. Most CRMs just plug directly into MailChimp rather than trying to build their own version of MailChimp that's better than MailChimp because that's not their goal. So it tends to be a bit of that. There are, like I said, there are some out there that do it, but it might not have as much functionality as a dedicated email platform because they have a lot more around actual marketing features, whereas CRM may be a little bit more transactional, either via tickets or donations, things like that. So it's not as jazzy and like nice to look at as some email platforms can make it.
Yeah, and as things move on, like you might start to, although it's great that one platform might have everything, and ticketing was something we discussed this morning as well, like all these things built into just to
Hmm.
the CRM. Maybe as things move on, you might start feeling frustrated that your platform's built-in stuff hasn't.
Yeah, I'm stuck with this because I
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, I've paid for the 5 years.
yeah. So I think there's another side to this that we've not really
Mhm.
talked about today as well. So a couple of people have asked about, third-party integrations, like building
Mhm.
integrations, and so that's from Emma. But Nadia also asks, when is it necessary to bring in a consultant to help manage a CRM project? And is
Yeah.
that helpful for really small teams, or how does it work?
It can be. I will say it's part of choosing a CRM. Ideally, you would get a lot of support from that supplier as well. So try and do as much with nothing to start with. It can get to that point where you just don't have the time, and I can't sit and figure all this out. And it might be worthwhile to pay someone for that. But I would always strongly encourage, first of all, come talk to me free, and that's saving you some money right there. But yeah, again, a lot of the time I encourage for a strong support from a system, so that hopefully that they can do a lot of that prep work for you. There'll still be stuff that you manually have to do, like it's your data and like tidying that up and things like that. There are there are consultants out there that can provide that, but again, the type of organizations that I speak to, they might not have the budget to pay someone to do that work for them. And again, it can be a long process, but it maybe just, I'm dedicating an hour an afternoon to this CRM project before it properly kicks off to like try and reduce as much of that as possible. But also, if you do eventually need a CRM consultant, I can recommend some of those as well. There's plenty out there as well that have worked
Yeah.
with IS organizations. So
Yeah, we work with quite a lot, don't we? And
yeah,
it's maybe like out of the box solutions first if possible, because that'll always be cheaper.
yeah,
But
try and do
yeah.
as much of it as yourself. For first of all, it helps you understand it better as well. Not just the cost side of things. Is if I'm doing the work, I know what we actually need from a CRM rather than someone else telling me, and maybe I don't have that. It goes back to the buy-in. Is you may not have that buy-in at that point by going, oh, it says it's this, or they've said it's this and that, and then you're actually using it in 6 months and go, oh, we didn't really think about how we actually do on this day-to-day side of things.
Yeah, they need a lot of context to really understand everything that you're
Yeah.
doing and get it right. Yeah. So Jess has asked a question here, so if anyone in the chat can help with this, this would be really helpful. Jess has asked, she says she's currently reviewing Zoho as a CRM and
Mhm.
wondered if anyone here has used it and would be open to, talk about that. So, please pop your name and your organization in the chat if you use Zoho and you're willing to talk to Jess. Hopefully she can get in touch. But that's a broader point here. Like it's a really good idea to do, isn't it? To speak to organizations, someone
Yeah.
else who's a customer.
It's one of I feel like I've kind of always done it, but it's become a lot more prevalent in the last 6 months or so, I'd say, where people are directly coming to me and they'll ask me, general CRM procurement, but the big part of that conversation is who else is using it? Can I talk to them? And so, yes, I can absolutely facilitate that conversation. If there isn't anyone in chat directly right now who does, we can get it right going right straight away. But if not, then yeah, there are lots of Zoho tends to be a bit more of a, like I said, on that corporate side of things. So personally see it less in the types of organizations that I speak to, but it's not zero. There are some. So you can definitely get those connections. So just drop me an email, drop a message in the booking chat.
Now, there's two really good questions that hopefully we can do really quickly because I love them both.
Yeah.
Lisa asked, should one person be the lead on a CRM and hold all of the keys? Or is it okay for multiple people to add data and work with the data and maybe one key person just has oversight of it?
Yeah, I'd say the second. You want other people to be responsible for it. You don't want the responsibility to fall on one person's shoulders. It can. I've been that person before where people just don't bother to learn anything about the system. If oh, I can just send it to Adam and he'll do it. And unfortunately, I will is the problem. So, and the types of some people that I speak to are like marketing officers and maybe shouldn't actually be responsible. They maybe have been put in charge of the project but they shouldn't necessarily be the final person who's you're a system administrator for this giant system now because that's not your job.
Yeah.
So I would always encourage people to include the wider team again from the very beginning conversation, but also higher ups as well. You need that support from above to kind of instigate any changes. You should be able to make those decisions and you should feel comfortable making those decisions based on the support of the management above you.
Yeah, 100%. Now we will
Go on, last one
answer,
then.
yeah, we will answer all of the questions that you've asked. So you will get that in writing. So don't worry if we've not come
Yeah.
to you yet. Final one. This is quite maybe a big one, but something that we could help with in one-to-one support as well. How do you keep your data in a CRM compliant with GDPR? So the example they give is recording lots of personal details.
Mhm.
They think they might be relevant, but also there could be a risk. I guess this is the risk of like data minimization, where you should try and keep as little as possible versus
Yeah.
legitimate interest, where something might genuinely be useful.
So my stance about data collection is why are you actually collecting that data? Are we collecting phone numbers, but we've never called anybody? Do we need to still be collecting that? It's just a waste of time for us as well. So things like that, I would always say keep it as minimal as possible. don't just collect data for the sake of collecting it. If legitimate interest can also be like your actual reporting and marketing needs and things of we need to know where people live so we can give them appropriate events maybe of when we're in town if we're a touring company. So look at what you do as a as an organization and say like what kind of information do we need to be able to do our jobs, and that should cover for the most part. However, I
Yeah,
would also say go talk to Jacqueline because she's great at GDPR and can give you a very much more. I hate speaking on a lot of the legal side of things because I'm not a legal professional. So I'll tell you what I know, but will hold my hands up and say don't blame me about anything. So
yeah,
back to Jacqueline for GDPR as well.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks very much. Thank you everybody for joining, and thanks for all your questions. Like Jack said, we will answer any that we didn't get to answer in the follow-up email and resources, and keep an eye out for that. And then, like I said, the recording will be online within 7 days. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.